And you've gone through a bit of the circuit's changed a lot, but you've gone through a bit of a change as well in the circuit. Like you've joined GB News, and what's brought about sort of the change in sort of you've changed your style to you've changed things to adjust to the changing landscape. How have you?
Yeah. Well, I suppose there's two sort of platforms that I've accepted that some people might regard as being politically, well, I suppose they are politically flavored. If some people might say tainted, even, I don't know. But first of all, I was asked to write a regular column for an online magazine called Spiked, which was originally called Living Marxism. It was a very hardcore left-wing magazine, but it's changed its kind of position a little bit. I think it would probably be seen as libertarian, but it's controversialist. It's spiky, and I enjoy writing for that. Write for them a couple of times. About once a fortnight rather, and those are columns often about what might be called culture war issues, where I hope I'm amusing first and foremost and maybe a bit thought-provoking, but it's not. These are not like full-on political polemics by any means. And then, yes, I took the job at GB News. I had a chat with them, God, it must be nearly 3 years ago now, and about what they wanted to do with an evening show. We talked initially about something that would be more like a chat show, an evening sort of topical chat show. And then it ended up being sort of newspaper review. And it's not something I would have anticipated. I mean, when I signed up there, it was still not entirely clear to me what GB News was going to be like. I think the first conversations I had with them, Andrew Neil had only just left, and it was obviously having teething troubles technically, but it wasn't quite clear to me what the political orientation would be. But regardless of how people might feel it's turned out, I think I personally am very proud of the content that I've hosted on our show. And it's it's a good, thorough, irreverent, funny. We rely on our wits. We have like 2 hours before each show to start prepping with the newspapers that come in for the next day, for the news stories. It's a good old-fashioned, seat of your pants, live broadcast comedy show. And I wouldn't want to necessarily align myself with everything that every presenter on GB News has to say, but I certainly wouldn't want to align myself with everything that every BBC presenter has to say either. I do sometimes ever so slightly resent the sort of suggestion or expectation that, oh, you're on GB News, therefore you think X, Y, and Z. Actually, it's an extraordinarily broad-minded, it's a broad church. It has its own kind of in-house flavor and positions, but it gives a voice to a lot of other people. So what I'm saying, I guess, is I push back slightly on the idea that I've sort of come out as a sort of right-wing commentator. I am a controversialist, but in the comedy sense, in the sense that, I will take the piss left, right, and centre. It's a perfectly noble tradition. Somebody like PJ O'Rourke, one of my favourite right-wing American commentators, and there are various others as well that have been amusing over the years, It's just important not to start taking yourself too seriously, because the truth is I don't do all the reading necessary, I have an instant knee-jerk reaction like everybody else. But I think it's been interesting the last 2 or 3 years. People have assumed that if you are right of centre or right wing or whatever in terms of culture war stuff, and also, maybe just anti-authoritarian or whatever, you're sort of aligning yourself, you were, with the Tory government, which wasn't the case at all. I was, every bit as despairing of the ability of the Tory government to get anything done or to make any sort of progress as anybody else. Now that we have a Labour government, it might be a little bit easier to be a right-wing satirist, because you're actually going to be addressing yourself to ideological opponents, and it's a little bit clearer exactly what you might want to have to say. But I didn't spend 2.5 years trying to keep Jacob Rees-Mogg in power, if you know what I mean.
Yes, it's. I know. I've heard. I know one comic. I won't say his name, but he told me, because there's a lot of tribalism going in comedy, and he says that because he did some stuff with GB News, he wasn't allowed to do certain gigs. which I find a bit. Yeah, I don't know. I find that a bit. I don't like that. I mean, if they're funny and they do a good job, just because someone, unless it's something really abhorrent and really sort of
Yeah.
like, I don't
I
think
totally
someone's.
agree with you. I think it's disgraceful the way the comedy world, not all the comedy world, but certain gigs, certain venues, certain bookers, and to be honest, certain colleagues regard the whole thing with suspicion and think that GB News is a is hate fueled and various phobics.